Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 5 of campaign 4 of Critical Role. Let's get into it. We start with the soldiers riding off into the darkness, leaving the city of Dol Makyar. Teor, Thimble, Cadigan, Tyranny, and Wick all begin their journey that they can't see the end of anytime soon. It's hard to see where they're going as it's raining very heavily. They know they have to move quick as the man who betrayed their friend is still free. Kaz is looking for a deed to a strong home, a treasure that he was seemingly willing to trade a friend away for. Ahead of them, or him, hopefully, is Sid, Teor's brother, if they haven't gotten to him already. Thimble in this moment feels like nothing else matters other than this goal. She's able to leave her grief behind at the moment, and she feels like she's able to make it right if everything goes well. This is keeping her safe from something else truly terrifying in her mind. As they ride, Teor thinks of how little he knows about Casimir and his brother. It's been years since he knew them. The idea of who his brother was has faded away and changed, and Sid found a purpose, and Teor feels a little bit jealous about this. Teor wonders what could have changed Casimir as much as it did to betray his friend. Teor knows next to nothing about what's to come and the people they're following. Wick turns back and sees the lights of the city, and he knows it will be the last time for a long time that he'll see the lights ever. Maybe even ever. He is cold and he is wet and he's very depressed. He's unsure of his goals, but he feels the answers lay ahead. The truth of the universe will present themselves to him. He looks forward again as they go over the hill, leaving the city lights behind, with hope, and he gives a quick prayer as they go. He feels comfort in this ritual of prayer. Tyranny was the one who pushed Wick into action, which has led them all here. She too looks back at the city. She thinks back to how every time she was let out of the house of the Condensing Creed, it was somewhat of a party for her. She loved being out and about. She loved meeting people. She loved the goings-on of the city. This time it feels very different. This one doesn't feel as good. Maybe she was more domesticated than she initially thought. Cadigan is going back home to Timony. Cadigan doesn't have much, but he watches the others from the back of the pack. He's coming alive at this moment. As they leave the city, he feels the energy of a hunt coming on. He feels good and he's excited, a rare thing for him. Wolfric jumps out of the bush and grabs a bird midair and eats it and kills it and then goes back in for more. This is where Cadigan wanted to be. He opens up the water skins of Wick and Tyranny as he goes by them, so they can be filled up by the rain. And now it's time for a survival check. Both Thimble and Cadigan will roll. The DC for finding the exact tracks they're looking for is 30, but there are other lower DCs for different outcomes. They will take the higher of the two rolls, and Cadigan gets a 19. He sees many footprints. A hunter has to move from what he sees to what he knows. He has to think about Sid and what he would do. He also has to think if Casimir would know what Sid would do and think around that as well. But then we go back to the city of Dol Makyar and the soldiers leave, and the Seekers and the Schemers join the table. They just watch the revival of Octus Taconis, the first time someone has come back to life by mortal hands, at least that they know of. Aranessa says whatever happened here is unknown to the others in the city, the other houses. Octus hears her voice, but it's blurry. He feels the sense of touch has moved from his hands and the outside of his skin to his innards. He can feel his muscles move and everything else move inside of him. He doesn't need to breathe. He feels his blood is no longer flowing. He knows deep down he is rotting in some way. He doesn't need to drink or eat anymore. He doesn't need to sleep or rest in the same way that he used to. He knows that that he can't be restless, but he will never be restful. He knows he doesn't age. He can't get drunk. He can't have kids. He can't look up at the end of his life from his deathbed at a family adoring what he did in the past. He knows all of this, yet people still talk to him like nothing has happened. Taisha asks if he's okay, and Octus says that he's here, and it's all very strange. He asks if she is okay, and Taisha says, no, Octus, he died. Octus asks what she means, and Murray explains that his guts are everywhere. He was dead. Hal asks what they missed, and Octus says sorry to Julian and tells the rest that his family and the Royce family were all killed off at the Davinos estate by the Taconis family. Azune pushes Julian's sword down, which he was still aiming at Octus. And he says that he is with friends, but Julian walks away. He's a little bit out of the room now at this point. Octus says that he hasn't seen his family in many years, and he doesn't know what they want or what they're doing. Valus asks if they know why they put the stone inside of Octus, and Octus says no. The stone is still in the mage hand, sort of floating in the air. Octus looks for a connection to himself within the stone. He rolls an insight and a wisdom save. He gets a 2 on the insight and gets a 16 on the wisdom save. He opens himself up to the stone, but a part of him tells him not to do that. Probably not a good move. He says that he shouldn't touch the stone ever. Murray wonders if the stone is Octus's anchor. Murray and Belair both roll Arcana checks to see if they know anything about phylacteries. Murray rolls a 25. She knows of them. This definitely isn't supposed to be that. Valus and Murray both at this moment hear the sounds of drumming, the sounds of creatures walking away from where they are, going into the forest to be reincarnated. She thinks the stone was meant to be destroyed, but due to their actions, that was stopped. She knows Octus's soul isn't in the stone per se, and she doesn't know how to put a soul in something like that. They basically hijacked a plan that Taconuses were trying to use the stone with, and used it for their own means. She thinks Octus and the stone are connected, but he shouldn't necessarily have it for himself. Valus knows this stone is a relic of her goddess, a way for celestials to guide elves, the ones who died, to the afterlife, because the elven goddess didn't believe they should die, but if they did, they needed a way through. She can see that Murray and Belair saved the stone, and she can see that it's tied to Octus now. Valus goes up to the stone and tries to grab it, using some of her clothing to protect herself from it, just in case there's any lingering effects. The others aren't sure about her taking it, though. Valus wants to keep it on her, she feels it'll be safe as there, and the others want to talk about that first before they do anything rash. Belair says what happened here was a miracle, and Murray notes that she can hear drumming, and Valus says that she can too. Taisha says that no one who can hear drumming should touch the stone. Azune goes up to Julian. Julian lifts his hand to tell him to stay back, and Azune moves into to the line of sight of Julian. Azune asks for a moment so he can earn Julian's trust, and Julian agrees. Azune asks him to go with him on a little walk to make sure that no one was here and that they weren't followed. Julian says a moment, and they step outside. Azune says what Julian did was very bold. He spoke to his feelings about everything going on. Azune is jealous that he's able to do that and find the words in this moment. Julian asks who Azune is, and Azune says that they met a long time ago, but notes that Julian must have a death wish as his actions were stupid. The entire party in there would have turned on him if he had done something dumb, or if he didn't back off. Azune asks if he has a death wish, and Julian says he hasn't decided yet. Azune says the walls are closing in, so there's no time to earn trust. It has to be a choice, and earning it will come later. Azune then goes on to answer the question of who he is. He'll never forget the first time he met Julian. He says that he was with Thiazi the end of the Falconers' Rebellion, and he saw how it all went down. Julian doesn't remember Azune because his attention wasn't on him. Azune says that he wants to extend a hand, as the past always comes up in some way or fashion to the present, but they shouldn't be a prisoner to it. He says that they're all twisted by it together, they're all twisted into this thing together. Azune says when the past comes up to find Julian, Azune will speak the story that Julian wishes to tell. Julian looks at him and says, "Congratulations, after all these years, you get to see my family brought low." Azune says that's not what he meant by all this, but Julian walks back into the house. Azune goes to follow him back, but he looks down the streets to see if anyone was following him, but he can't quite rule that out as he rolled a low perception check. Murray knows that coincidences are real and do in fact happen. This isn't the first relic that they saw this week, or even within the last 2 days, that have something to do with death and the Celestials. She thinks of the plates that were on the coffin to a Celestial under the Rowan trickster god. The stone is the second thread to the Taconis plan and whatever Thiazi's plan was. Hal asked what the next step should be. Will the Taconises go after Octus? Octus says he doesn't know if the family even knows he's alive right now. They probably think he's dead. Murray doesn't think that theory will last very long. Aranessa asks how the others found them here at the Loy estate. Murray says they went to the Davinos estate and saw some kind of ritual, and the candle that was, that they found and put back together, and they heard Pin, so they followed Pin's footsteps back here. Aranessa asks if they weren't put off by the dead bodies at the Davinos estate, and Azune notes that it was actually very clean. Aranessa says the Taconis now know that Octus's body isn't there anymore. Julian asks what they mean by clean, and Izune says there was no bodies, no blood, just the candle. This upsets Julian greatly. Hal thinks it's best to take Octus underground somewhere. Julian asks Octus where he's going next, and Octus says he doesn't know. Taisha and Octus agree they have to leave the city. Aranessa asks what Octus saw, and Octus recalls his vision of the Taconis flags under a black sky and a lone orc warrior with the sign of the Barrow Guard. He tells the others what he saw again. Taisha looks at Hal. Julian says that he trains many of their soldiers, and asks if that's where he wants to go, and Octus says that's their only lead right now. Taisha thinks that he saw her son, Alagar. Julian tells Octus wherever he goes, Julian will follow, as Octus's family will come for Octus at one point, and Julian will be ready for it. Murray says that she doesn't think what he saw was on this plane of existence. Octus rolls an Arcana check and gets a 14. He can't pinpoint a location he saw in the visions, but he thinks that the stone that he saw was to the east of the Devalmar Pass, which is the old home of the Taconis family before it fell. Valus goes to grab the stone while everyone else is busy, and Belair casts command as he was on top of that shit to stop her from doing what she was going to do, and she fails the save. Belair takes Valus aside, and he says that it's his fault that she's here, and he won't let her harm him being Octus. Valus says that she won't harm Octus. He died under Taisha's care, and he's safer with her. Technically, that's not true. I just feel like pointing that out. Technically, that's not true. The two of them argue for a little bit, and Belair casts command again and says silence. Valus actually passes this time. Belair asks Valus to swear that she'll keep Octus safe, and Valus swears. Belair says that if he ever gets hurt, he will find her. Valus asks why he cares so much, but this question never gets answered. Aranessa looks to Octus and says that he saw the Barrow Guard. The Divinos and the Royce families took a vanguard there to the Barrow Guard not too long ago. Her and Octus's family were on the opposite sides during the Shapers' War, but the same side during the Falconers' Rebellion. She says that she doesn't know who in her family still lives, and their carriages were stopped at the Devalmar Pass. She doesn't know anything. They've been weakened since the gates to Ferry closed. It seems the Taconis family thought the Royce family was just a name for far too long. She says her grandfather wouldn't fully commit himself to the cause of the Falconers' Rebellion. She wonders if she would have done something differently if she was in charge back then. They stayed strong, but it brought them to where they are right now. She needs to go east. It's the only direction that might have something left for her other than a short life here. She says Octus is the only thing in the last 10 years that didn't go right for his family. She wants to cling to him in a desperate attempt for hope that something good might happen. Octus says, of course, he'll do his best to help out. Aranessa says that she hopes they find something to look for out there while they go. She looks to Julian and then back to Octus and says they've been the Sundered Houses for far too long, but she doesn't want to be broken anymore. Aranessa tells Julian they are being hunted and says that she doesn't think Octus can avoid his family for long alone. And then she looks to Valus and offers Valus her trust with their connection to the fairies and the fae and the elves and blah, blah, blah. It was a bit longer than that, but I'm just cutting it off there because it was a lot. She asks Valus to come with them, as she thinks that they'll die if she doesn't come with them because she was a badass last time Aranessa saw her do anything. Murray asks if the current plan is to go where the stone told them to go. Octus says yes, and then everyone looks to Taisha. She thinks the people are looking at Octus like some sort of meal. She says if he wants her to go, she'll go with him. Octus says that he can't take her away from her family. It's actually up to her, not him. Taisha says he's also family, and his blood family are some of the worst people that she's ever met, so she's with him. Azune asks if Lady Aranessa is leaving with the others, and Aranessa says yes. Azune notes the witnesses of what happened are all leaving. He says that some of the houses fought with the gods in the Shapers' War, and some of them fought against. The city is a mix of the houses. Halavar and Taconis fought for the gods. Royce, Cormoré, and Enfasen fought against the gods. This was 70 years ago, but they're all still sinking their claws into the city in some different way. The Cormoré are going after the museum, the Enfasen are going after the Revolutionary Guard, and the Taconis are going after the Penteverol. They aren't working together yet. They have each other's bloods on their hands still. They need to find a way to make a wedge and just shove it all the way through them. They have evidence that one of the priestly houses has eliminated one of the rebel houses. They need to plant a seed of suspicion to make the other families fear each other. Octus asks what he needs him to do, and Azune says anything to implicate his family. Belair asks for any personal belongings that they could keep from Octus, and Octus gives him the signet ring to his family. Belair says to Octus that he awaits the day he comes back to the city so they can talk about what Octus has become, because he knows that being alone and being singular is lonely. Aranessa agrees with Azune's plan, but they don't know which card is being played face up or face down. To go to the other families and tell them that the Taconis did this to her family would be dangerous unless she knows that the others didn't already know. She needs to see who in her house still lives, and this wasn't planned. It was very fast. It was a gambit. The Taconis family saw an opportunity and they took it, because they didn't have all these pieces before the last couple of days. There are going to be blind spots in their plan, and she needs to go east. She must go east, and she will travel with those with insight, and she will travel with one who used to walk the old path. She looks to Taisha, her sister-in-law, and she'll open many doors for them, ones that only one of the old path will be able to. And she'll be able to convince others of the old path to not kill Octus, because many will try to destroy him. Aranessa doesn't want to be gone long, but they need to know who their friends and who their enemies are. She thinks Azune is right. Greed destroys the world and itself. She hopes they find these answers wherever they go. Hal thinks between the four of them, Hal, Murray, Belair, and Azune, the schemers, that they know basically everyone in the city and they can keep their eyes out and put feelers out into the world. Octus tries to apologize to Hal for everything, and Hal says that something is happening underneath the surface. It's not something that they can control. He tells Octus to keep Taisha safe. Murray notes that they won't have any way to communicate if things go wrong on either side, and Azune says that they'll just need to trust each other. Murray asks how Julian is doing, and he says that he walks with Aranessa and Octus, and he places his trust in the others who walk with them. So he's fine. He has a path to walk. Morning begins to crest over the horizon. Azune gets horses for the Seekers team. As they get their horses, Julian asks Azune's name. He gives it to him, and then Azune asks for Julian's name, because this is a formal introduction. But Julian says we'll see when he gets back. Octus tells Murray that he'll take some notes and share whatever he learns with her, especially anything about the stone. Octus also apologizes to her for being a rich kid invading her school, her favorite place. Murray says that he's talented and earned his place at the school, that's why she didn't expel him. She tells him not to die again. Hal tells Taisha if it is their son that they are to bring him home. Taisha says if everything worked with Thiazi, she wouldn't have even seen Hal, but for a second she thought she'd be able to stay a little bit longer than she is now. They say that they love each other, and Octus says he died a virgin, which is terrible information that, didn't need to be shared, but it was funny nonetheless. The stone goes into Velas' possession, and the Seekers head off, and the Seekers leave the table. Only the schemers remain. The four look at each other. The sun rises soon, and they all have work within 2 hours. Belair has a tour to give. Murray needs to go to the Penteverol. Murray thinks Azune is right. This was systematic. Azune notes there's got to be holes in the plans here because they move so fast. Murray thinks the houses are working together for power. Azune agrees they will work together till it no longer suits them to do so. They need to make that happen soon. Hal says that they have their own influence in the city and they should put out feelers. Hal thinks they need a place to meet up that is not his house or the mansion anymore. Hal and Belair have a place at the theater for them that they could use. Murray asks why Belair let Velas into the city, as she overheard that conversation. Belair was hoping that she would take care of Thiazi so he can escape the deal with him in somewhere fashion. He didn't necessarily want Thiazi to die, but Azune asks if Belair had anything to do with Thiazi's execution, and Belair says no. Insight check from Hal. He rolls another natural one. I hate that we can't trust a single thing Belair says. Belair says that he wouldn't have let her in if he had anything to do with the execution. Belair says that he had to be squeaky clean because of Thiazi, but that meant that he could be bought by other people as he needed money. So hopefully that is still the case, that people still want to pay him off. Murray thinks that they need to make the room of the theater look bigger than it actually is, or vice versa, make it bigger than it actually looks. The sun is rising, the four of them have work to do, so they all head out. Hal goes home to where his daughter is still sleeping inside. Belair gets to the museum, and as he does, a carriage pulls up. Azune gets to the Brethren Hall and hears people talking about the lights going out at the Divinos estate. Murray gets to the Penteveral, and there's a buzz going around as the new dean will be giving a speech today. Hal sees a magpie nest on his windowsill, and the egg begins to crack open. A baby emerges, and the sun rises over a gray city. Tough, doomed, hopeful, and hurt. The bird sees its home for the first time, and it has to believe there's something worth fighting for here. With that, the schemers leave the table, and we return to these soldiers. First things first, Cadigan actually has guidance, so he casts on himself, so his survival check was actually above 20. There's a few roads that they can take, but two of them get ruled out. The road to the Devalmar Pass doesn't go anywhere near Timony, and there's the Pilgrim's Road that leads to a holy site, but it's abandoned. So those two roads taken off the list altogether. Then there's the King's Highway, the main road to Timon's Rock, the main city of Timony. That's the fastest road to where they're going. They know Cid was on foot, and they know Casimir was on carriage. The best road for Kaz on his carriages would be the King's Highway, but they can also go through the Dapshini Wood, a pine rainforest, cool and misty 24/7. Kaz would have for sure used the King's Highway because of his carriages. If they go that way, it's big and open. It'll be fast, but also dangerous, as anyone following them would have a lot easier time catching up to them after leaving the city. It's likely that Cid, Teor's brother, went through the woods. They can go on the fast road, but the risk of being caught is much higher, but they'll be able to have a lot more opportunities to track Casimir. The woods is safer from followers from the city, but it has its own dangers. Cadigan asks what the others would like to do, and Wick says that the highway might be better for more comfort. Tierney says if they go that way, there's going to be more people. They'll need to make their cover story, as they are with Teor, who is, someone that his family tried to kill. Wick says that he is their protection as they spread the word of the Candescent Creed, and Tierney actually agrees that just playing along with their regular role is a good idea. Thimble asks if Cid would go into the woods, and Teor thinks that he would. Teor asks what's more important, Cid or Kaz. Cadigan wonders what time of day it is, and he makes a perception check and rolls a 6. It's been a long night, and they've been up basically all day. They've traveled basically the entire time. If they keep going, they'll start risking exhaustion. He can tell that the sun is coming up, however. He can't tell exactly what time it is, but you don't really need to roll all that well to see if the sun's coming up or not. He's worried about the monsters at night in the woods, but it's becoming morning, so he's not too concerned about it. Teor thinks that the danger following them is worse than anything that's going to be in the woods, so the woods is a better choice. Teor and Thimble want to go to the woods. Wick and Tierney want to go to the road. It's up to Cadigan. And he starts moving towards the woods. Teor thinks that Cid will leave behind a trail for them to find, so they don't really need to move fast, they just need to be careful. They will leave the horses behind to go into the woods to move through it faster. They go to hitch them up at a nearby inn. As they get ready to go into the woods, a voice yells out to Wick. They ask if he's leaving the horses behind, and there's a man in a cage hanging from a high post. He's an orc man. Wick asks if he's the man to go to for any business around here, and the orc says yes, with a very cheeky smile. He grabs a bone from the next cage over and pushes off the post that he's on, swinging his cage into the inn, making a large banging sound. He then yells to wake up as customers are here. Wick wants to give him a symbol of the Candescent Creed, so Thimble flies it up to him. He recognizes Thimble. She actually knows him as well. He is Abelang, someone that she's worked with in the past. She asks what happened, and he says that he was caught after they knocked over a caravan going to Timony and helped themselves to some of the light, and he apologizes to Wick. He looks to Wick and says that he's a fan of his family's work. Abelang asks for Wick's name. Tierney gives him some fruit leather and says that she's also of the Creed. Abelang asks if that's hard as she's a demon, and she says no because of Wick. She points to him. She doesn't say his name. Wick tells Abelang that I keep saying Abelang, his name is Nick Halavar. This excites Abelang. Deception check. Wick gets a natural 20. Abelang asks why they're leaving the horses at the inn, and Wick says they're going on a trip into the woods, and the party freak out at this because they're trying to hide information. Tierney says that Thimble is taking them on an adventure, and they're here to spread the word of the beam. Cadigan says they're going truffle hunting. Abelang says that's great, sarcastically. Thimble rolled insight and gets a 10. She can't really read Abelang all that well. Thimble asks how long he's in there for, and Abelang points to the skeleton next to him and says until he's like that. Thimble asks if he wants help, and he says yes. Cadigan puts it together that the Halovars probably grabbed him and put him in there for what he did to the carriage. Abelang says that they knocked the caravan after they got the Aussie, and he says that he assumes the Aussie's out here with Thimble if she's out here. Thimble simply shakes her head no, and Abelang apologizes for what happened. He says that it was always a pleasure to do work with the Aussie. Thimble says if she lets him out, he has to tell people that they went the opposite direction. He says Nick Halavar went truffle hunting, but if they give him a head start, he won't see which way they go. Thimble then goes to unlock the lock. Taylor and Cadigan sort of take their own little scan to make sure that no one's around. Thimble rolls a 21 on her lock picking. Without issue, she's able to pick it. Abelang opens the door and falls forward onto the ground. He's very injured as he's been sitting there for days, maybe even weeks. The door opens to the inn. An old orcish woman steps out, sees what's going on, and walks simply back inside. She doesn't want anything to do with that. Thimble asks if Abelang saw anyone like Tayor, and he says no. He asks who they're looking for, and Thimble says the ones who betrayed the Aussie. He says that he did see carriages with mounted guards with the Taconis symbol on it, and the drivers were all wearing crow feathers. They stuck around for a while. They seemed confused on where to go. Tierney asks if he's caught again. It was under the name of Nick Ander Halavar, who wanted him caught, and don't tell him who freed him. Tayor uses lay on hands to heal him up a little bit, and puts a gold coin in his pocket. Tierney rolls a natural 20 on persuasion. Abelang says that he hopes to never get caught by the Creed again, but he'll make sure that the name Nick Ander Halavar worked in the highest regards of the Creed to try to capture him again. Abelang says if they go up the highway, they can use his name at the Fiddle and Drum. It's an inn. They can use it to have a good place to rest. He also tells them there's a tower in the woods, and the owner Ulbid, he's a friend as well, so if they need a place to rest if they go in the woods, that's a spot they can. He says he's always more comfortable in company of liars. He asks if the horses are being left here for anyone to take, and the party say yes, and he becomes 4 horses richer as he rides off. The party then dip out into the forest as they just freed a criminal. Thimble puts Casimir working with the Taconis together and is worried about Octus. A little late for that one. Wick thinks Hal will take care of him, and they start to make their way after Sid. Wick says they did a great job back there, but everyone says that Wick did a horrible job. Everyone else sort of had to pick up his slack. As they move into the woods, they make survival checks. Cadigan gets a 15 on the roll. They push into the woods a bit more as the day gets brighter. There's a bit of mist in the air still. They believe now they can slow down and start to cover their tracks and start looking for Sid's tracks. They know Sid has a day on them, roughly. They roll stealth for covering their tracks as they go. Stealth checks, 11 from Wick, 5 from Tierney, 21 from Cat, 15 from Thimble, and Taylor with a dirty 20. They cover their tracks well enough, moving on rocks, avoiding dirt whenever they can, etc. One last survival check to find any tracks for Sid. The DC is 25. Thimble rolls a 26 using Hal's inspiration. As they move, Thimble looks down and sees clovers covered with dew drops. She feels that someone is nearby in some water. She sees a fairy underneath the water nearby, who asks if she's in danger by mouthing it to her. Thimble says not right now. It's a naiad, a spring fairy. She is in a water spring. She says Not twice in 24 hours. That's crazy. Thimble asks what she saw, and the spring fairy grabs Thimble and pulls her under, blows a air bubble so the two of them can breathe and talk. She says that she is Brook Meadow and asks if Thimble is in danger. She knows the trees around here that can kill tall people like her friends. Thimble says no, they're actually friendly, and asks who she saw. Brook, I'm just going to say Brook, says that she saw a black lion folk. He looked very scared. Brook asks if Thimble is looking for Hawthorne's Glade. Hawthorne's Glade? I believe that's how you say it. Thimble says yes, which is a lie, so it's a deception check. She gets a natural 20. Laura's first good roll of the campaign. Well, second. The other one was a couple minutes ago. Brooke says that she can't bring tall people there, but it's a day's travel north, deep in the woods before the imaginary line in the border, which is like where regular people make imaginary lines in maps and stuff. That's what she's talking about. Thimble asks if Brooke needs anything. She says no, she's actually here to help more people like herself and Thimble. Brooke says it's safe. The magic there is strong, so they can't get in. But there are dead things around. They know something is there. The dead things know that something is there. She needs to get somewhere safe for the night. Thimble asks if Brooke knows where the tower is. Brooke says yes, it's a few hours a few hours out of the way. Brooke asks Thimble to spread the word of this place to stay safe. Hawthorne's Glade, that is. Thimble gives her a button, and Brooke is very happy about it and says that they will make it. Thimble then jumps back out of the water. Tierney explains to Wick that they need to play the part his family wants them to play, so they just have to keep rolling with that. And Wick thinks that that's a good move. He agrees. Tierney then asks what happened with Thimble, where she went. Thimble says that she found Sid's fur and says that the fur itself is very stressed and is going north. Insight checks all around against deception check from Thimble. Thimble gets a 16 and Taylor gets a 17. Taylor saw what went down, but he plays along. Taylor thanks Thimble and whoever helped. She also says that the tower is a few hours north. Wick finds it very impressive that she was able to learn all that from a single thing of fur. So then now they have to pick between going towards the tower or Hawthorne's Glade. The issue with the Glade is they don't know exactly where it is, and it's not for tall people. Thimble did know about Hawthorne's Glade, though. She's heard of it. It's a tragically common safe place for fairies after the doors to fairy closed. She doesn't think if they go there, the big folk will die or anything like that, but she might get in trouble herself. It might have some good information on Sid, however. Tierney wants to rest soon. Taylor thinks the tower is a good rest for now. It would be good for Thimble as well. If they went to the Glade at some point, but they don't have to go right now. Survival checks from Thimble again, and she rolls a 24. They move through the woods, thinking about how they have exclusively met nice people since they've left the city. They see all sorts of creatures as they walk through the forest here. They eventually get to a ridge, which slows them down a lot. Everyone has to make con saves. Wick a 17, Tierney an 18, Cadigan a 15, Taylor a 10, and Thimble a 17. No one gets exhaustion. They get to the top of the ridge and they see a small house with a massive brass telescope coming out of the roof. It's looking for Ruidus. There's a goat and some fowl running around this place. As they get closer, they also see a bunch of art sculptures made of various materials. And there's an old banner written in with something written on it in Gnomish. There's boxes with fireworks outside along the outside of the doors. They try to move in stealthily, but they roll like dog shit. So as they walk up to the house, they make perception checks, and Tierney gets a 17. She smells a sizzle as there is a boulder with a copper wire holding a cold nail. Cold nails seem to be Brennan's favorite thing. And it's burning red hot. The goat here looks at Tierney. The goat then walks over to the house and then walks up the side of the house magically somehow and then slams on an air horn, some kind of alarm. An old gnomish man then walks out of the house. He happily welcomes them, as they're not trying to kill him. They tell him that they're friends of Abelang, and the gnome says that, oh, that's great, because Abelang gave him all these barrels of chicken feet. The old gnome says that he's happy to help Abelang by letting him use the telescope to check out the roads. He wonders why he's confessing him being a criminal in some form or fashion. Taylor says that he's among the like-minded people here. The gnome says it's important to be honest, and Wick agrees. The man asks what he should call Wick, and Wick just straight up uses his real name, Wick. He introduces himself as the gnome introduces himself as Ulbid Morn, the gnome that they're looking for. He says that they got here at a good time as the sun will be going down soon. Taylor uses divine sense and gets a ping from Thimble and Tyranny and a few other items around. Notably, nothing happens with a ping on Wick. Ulbid asks how they know Abalong, and they say that they freed him from a cage, and the gnome gives a knowing look. He tells them that this place is no 3-star inn, but they're welcome to stay. Thimble says that they need a safe place from the dead, and Ulbid says, yeah, the traps here are set, so they're all good. He invites everyone inside, but says that they'll have to crouch. They can stand if they stand in the middle of the house, as it's a little domed area. It is one big room with a center pillar that has wood planks acting as some sort of spiral staircase going up to a platform for the observatory. There's a bunch of small beds. He gets blankets and food for everyone. Wick asks what Ulbid looks through at the telescope. He says that he's looking at the clouds. He's trying to figure out if the barrow dell of the storm rack is getting worse, which he says it is getting worse. Tyranny asks if he ever spies on people, and he says yes. He looks at the road for people sometimes. He says that he saw a tree fall and separate a hell of our carriage before bandits got to it. Wonder who did that. Tyranny asks if she watches people kiss, and he says no, he's actually a widower, and he still loves his wife and thinks of her every single day. Cadigan scans the perimeter of the house. Thimble looks over all the belongings and stuff in the house, as she's able to move around very fast, and she rolls an investigation check and gets a 20. She finds a green and gold toy chest with all sorts of toys in it. Thimble notices some chests and drawers have all been pushed to the side and locked up. Ulbid asks what they're doing, and Wick says that they're looking for another lion folk. Ulbid didn't see him, as it's hard to look down with the telescope into the forest. They say that they're heading towards Timony, and Thimble asks if he saw a carriage with crows on it. Ulbid says yes, with Tacona's guards. Thimble asks how far he is, and he goes up to see and take a look if he can still see them or not. Thimble goes up with him. He looks through the telescope, and they can see that they're likely behind another peak, so they can't get a visual on them right now, but eventually they'll come around another ridge and be able to see them, probably tomorrow. But they could be going north, so he turns the telescope and says, oh, King's banners. Thimble looks in and sees what looks to be like ants on the road, but she can see a banner with 3 red dots on a white field. They are the Hounds of Timony, the King's Guard, or the King's Banner. They're heading south. Thimble hopes the next morning they'll be able to see the other carriages on the other side of the ridge. Ulbid thinks they will if they get up early enough. Thimble asks who the toys are for, and Ulbid says hopefully for his grandkids one day if he ever has any, and they were for his daughters. Thimble asks if he gets visitors very often, and he says mostly people like Avalon, but not many. Thimble asks if he has any toy soldiers with swords, as her pin isn't very good at pins. Pricks. What the fuck do we want to call them? Her needles, that's what it is, aren't very good at cutting balls off. He says that he can't help with that. His daughters were little maniacs back in the day, and they like toys of war. He'll look for something for her, but for now they're going to have dinner. Meanwhile, outside, Cadigan rolls a perception check and gets a 17. Cadigan sees that this place is relatively safe. Ulbid calls him back inside for food, and Cadigan goes inside. As he goes inside, though, Ulbid turns on a light, which makes it a little bit less safe because it's more like a beacon calling people towards it, and then he stitches up a piece of the banner together. The party wonder if that's some sort of warning to other people, or a signal of some kind. Cadigan sends Wulfric into the forest. The party go to bed. Tyranny sleeps at the foot of Wick's bed. Wick gives her his cloak. Wick says that everyone has been very helpful and thinks that it's because they have been positive and truthful. He thinks this is all some sort of test by the creed and sort of riffs off a rite of passage or something within the Bible, I guess. Like Wick 3:16 or something like that, Tyranny says that they're all here to help and they should try to keep their chins up. Teor and Cadigan will each take turns keeping watch, as it's part of, their routine at this point. They feel safer when someone does that. Thimble makes a bed on a high up windowsill, and she just looks out the window for a long time before falling asleep. Wick falls asleep for the first time on straw. He's a little uncomfortable. Perception checks from Teor and Cadigan. 16 from Teor and a 10 from Cadigan. Cadigan is distracted by a doll he took from the toy box that he found, or that Thimble found. Teor is first outside and he checks the perimeter. He sees Thimble up in the window, a little concerned for her. During the night, Ulbid steps outside and notes that Teor is out there. Ulbid begins putting the animals away. Ulbid also adjusts the banner and the light yet again. Teor asks what the banner says, and Ulbid says that it says "Welcome Home." It's for all three of his daughters. Their names are Sarabelle, Demerel, and Elendel. I believe I'm saying them right, probably not. Teor asks how long it's been since he's seen any of them, and he says 15 years, 2 months, and 17 days. Teor says that he can see the love that Ulbid has for his kids and thanks him for letting them use his house. Teor tells him they are looking for his brother. Ulbid says there's no distance too far for family. He says that he's thought of looking for them, but worries that if he ever were to leave and they come back when he's gone, that they'll leave again. He wonders what he would do if he knew that they were just never going to come home. He fears that them coming home to a place like this would not be very welcoming if, he wasn't there, or if it wasn't properly fixed or anything like that. That's why he keeps the banner in the case they do come home. Teor takes out his banner and says that he understands that as well. Ulbid pats Teor and says that his daughters would have loved him as they heard the cry. Teor says the falcon's cry stretches far and wide. Ulbid says that's why he kept the toy soldiers in a drawer. He didn't know why he let them play with them back then, but that's what you want, right? Brave girls who face the problems of the world head on. Teor says he inspired them to make the world better. Teor promises that if he hears of his girls on their travels, he'll tell them that they owe their father a visit. It's long overdue. Ulbid says he'll be ready and thanks Teor for asking and not thinking him crazy. Teor's watch ends. Cadigan stares at a doll that he took from the toy box. He is on top of the house, just sort of sitting there. The dawn begins to creep in and he can hear something like a far-off whisper. He thinks that this will be the last warm place from before they encounter a lot of danger. There are things looking for the light and the warmth. They aren't sure where they are exactly. He looks at the doll. It's been destroyed from termites and been forgotten for many years from not being used. He throws it away, rude, and then goes to wake everyone else up. Tyranny is sitting on Wick's chest like some sort of fucking sleep paralysis demon, and she wakes him up. Wick says that he is very itchy because he slept on straw, and Sam takes off his shirt to reveal a Brennan Lee Mulligan t-shirt, and so it begins, and the session ends here. And there you have it, episode 5 of Campaign 4 of Critical Role. This one was fun. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of, I would say, like, the most boring part of the episode was the schemers and the seekers sort of being brought back into it, because a lot of it was just recapping what happened at the end of episode 4. So that tells me personally, or what I believe theory-wise, is they filmed the first 4 episodes a while ago, and then there was a long break, and then they started filming these ones again and had to remember what the fuck they were doing. So that's sort of the vibe that I got from that whole thing with the seekers and the schemers. We did learn a bit more from them, but I honestly felt like I honestly think we should move on from them and leave them to their own devices for a while, and then just stick with the soldiers from now on. Do I think it would be nice for us to have like cold openings with the other tables? Maybe, but then you're going to have a bunch of issues with like timing and stuff like that. So realistically, they should just let the soldiers play out, and then let the seekers play out, and then let the schemers play out. And then at the end, if they're all going to convene, it makes the most sense that way. But it's up to them, realistically, what they do. I just think that part was the most like disjointed and most rehashed part. So who knows? I don't know. Hopefully they just stick with the soldiers from here on out. But overall, I enjoyed it. I loved them like running through the woods looking for Sid, and it's not over yet, which I'm excited for. The best part of the episode was Ulbid, because the whole time you're waiting for like the shoe to drop, if you will, And for him to be like, aha, I'm a bad guy and I've got all these people here to kill you, right? You're waiting for it the whole time, and then it's actually revealed that he's a very sweet, loving individual waiting for his daughters to come home who are probably dead from the Falconers' Rebellion, which is rough, which means they're one of the names on the stone monument, or they're one of the names that aren't written there. So that's very sad to think about, but at the same time, that's war. But I did like that little reveal of they heard the Falconers cry. I love how Thiazi's impact on the world is still being shown in very unique and different ways. And I also love how, as they're moving away from the city, we're finding nicer people. Now, according to Brennan, if they had went up the King's Road, they wouldn't have met as nice people. Like, the best route was the route they took. So I'm happy they went this route, because I'm looking for some good people for a change, because it's been a while since they've had some good people to run into. But overall, I enjoyed this episode a lot. So at first, I was under the impression, or the belief as well, that Olbid kept changing his story, because he's like, oh, my daughter, and then my daughters, and then my 3 daughters. So I was like, he's changing something here of the story a little bit, which was interesting to me. So I was like, it feels like the story's changing. It feels like the shoe is about to drop, which I was excited for. I think that Brennan didn't really have like a big plan for him outside of like explaining what the Barrow Dell of the Storm Rack is, because that didn't get explained at all. So I think that whole point of the tower initially was just for that, and then he sort of shifted it to talk about something else. I think once he noticed that they didn't really care about the telescope all that much outside of using it to spy on people, Brennan shifted into it being like, you know, it's for, this house is for me waiting for my kids. Like, I love that idea a lot, that he shifted it and did it a really well, like a really good job. But then you think back and he like had like the fireworks there, and like, because the exclamation mark points to the fireworks for the kids and stuff like that, right? So while at first it really felt like it was leaning toward like him betraying them, if you go back and look at the context clues, it was always leading to that point. So it was really funny when the players start getting really tense around this little gnome man, and they're like really concerned, and Brennan's like, you know, I'm just a happy guy. I just think Brennan is really good at like subverting things without us realizing he's subverting things, right? It was really well done. I had to point that out because I really liked that moment. Also, one of the most unnecessary lore drops of all time, with Octus dying a virgin. There's just something so stupid about that. The fact that that actually got fucking said is crazy to me. But anyway, I think that's all I have to say. This was a fun episode. I enjoyed it quite a lot. I'm excited for them to like be truly set in the groups being different. I'm actually shocked the Seekers have like fully left the city already. I thought they would be sticking around for a little bit longer in the city, but the fact that they're also leaving, and they're roughly taking a similar path until they get to like that fork in the road where they're going to be going, instead of going up like the King's Path and through the woods, they're going to be going up the Devalmer Pass, which is like the opposite direction, which I'm very intrigued by. I would love a fucking map to this world. I need a map to this world, right? Early in campaign 3, we got a map to Marquette. I would love a fucking map. It would be so nice to have a map. But anyway, I think that's all I have to say, and I will see you guys on Monday for whatever video I make next. I am saying Monday because Tuesday, I believe, is Remembrance Day, and I would not want to put a video up on Remembrance Day. That's a big deal for a lot of people, so to me, Remembrance Day is a big deal as well. My grandfather fought in World War II, so for me personally, I'm going to avoid uploading on that day and either do it on the Monday or the Wednesday. I'll make a post about it, so hopefully you guys see that, or you've listened to me say it here. So yeah, look out for a different posting on a different day. But until then, peace. And like usual, at the end of the video, I will be thanking the members of the channel. So this month we have Eric Cunningham in the Bandit level, and we have Trentley's Tabletop in the Rogue level. Thank you for the support. And if anyone would like to support the channel or get a shout out at the end of the video, you can become a channel member today. You will also get videos early, because I tend to upload them early and then schedule them for public viewing. But members get to see them early, so there's many benefits to becoming a member today.